Imagine this. You retire with more money than you ever thought possible, not because you picked the perfect stock, but because you finally understood how your own mind works around money. Welcome to this audiobook-style summary of The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Let's talk about money the way it actually feels in real life, not the way textbooks pretend it works. Part 1. Money is more about behavior than intelligence. We live in a country where you can have a PhD in finance and still be broke, and you can be a janitor, a teacher, or a nurse, and quietly retire a millionaire. That's the heart of the psychology of money. Your financial success is not about how smart you are. It's about how you behave when markets go crazy, when everyone around you is spending, and when fear or greed is loud in your head. Think about it. You already know the basics. Spend less than you earn. Invest for the long term. Avoid high-interest debt. If knowledge alone were enough, every spreadsheet nerd in America would be rich. But they're not. Because the hardest part of money is managing your emotions. Money decisions are not made in Excel. They're made at the dinner table, after a long day at work, when you're tired, stressed, or scared. This book is about that side of money, the messy, human, emotional side, and once you understand it, your whole financial life starts to feel different. Part 2. Your personal history with money shapes everything. Imagine two people listening to this right now. One grew up in a stable middle-class home in the suburbs. Her parents had 401ks, health insurance, a house with a fixed-rate mortgage. She never worried about food or rent. For her, the stock market is a place where money grows over time. The other grew up watching the lights get shut off, eviction notices on the door, parents arguing about bills. For him, long-term investing sounds like a luxury. Cash in hand today feels more real than any promise about retirement. These two people can look at the exact same investment and feel completely different about it. Same data, same stock, and same chart. But their experiences with money are different, so their behavior is different. Here's the key idea. People don't make financial decisions in a vacuum. They make them through the lens of their own story. If you grew up during high inflation, you might hate holding cash. If you saw your parents lose a home in 2008, you might fear the stock market for life. If you watched a small business crumble during COVID, you might oversave and never feel safe. There's nothing stupid about any of that. It's human. So before you judge someone else's money choices or beat yourself up for your own, remember this. We all live in different financial realities. The way you treat money is a product of what money has done to you. Good money behavior starts with understanding your own story. Ask yourself, what did I learn about money as a kid? What scared me? What felt safe? And am I still reacting to those old memories today, even if my situation has changed? Part 3. Luck, risk, and the stories we tell. Here's a tough truth. You can do everything right and still lose money. You can do almost everything wrong and get rich. That's because luck and risk live inside every financial story. In America, we love to worship the billionaire genius. We read their biographies, their quotes, their routines. We copy their habits and hope for their results. But we rarely see the full picture. We see the winners, not the thousands of people who took similar risks and failed. It's the same with risk on the downside. People who went bankrupt in 2008 weren't all reckless gamblers. Some were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Job lost, house underwater, medical bills. Bad things happen even to careful people. The psychology of money reminds us not to confuse outcome with skill. Good outcome does not always mean good decision. Bad outcome does not always mean bad decision. So what do you do with that? First, be humble when things go well. Don't assume you're a genius because your stocks went up in a bull market. Second, be kind when things go badly. Don't assume everyone who struggles is lazy or stupid. Third, Build a life that doesn't require perfect luck to succeed. Make decisions that still leave you okay, even if you're a little unlucky. Part 4. The dangerous word, enough. In America, more is almost a religion. More income, more followers, more square footage, more everything. But more has no finish line. You can always find someone richer to compare yourself to. You might make 6 figures. Then you meet someone making 7. You save $1 million for retirement. Then you hear someone say you really need 5. If you don't define enough for yourself, the game never ends. You will always feel behind. You will always feel poor next to someone else. And when more becomes your only goal, you start to take stupid risks. You stretch for higher returns. You chase the hottest stock. You use leverage. You ignore your own risk tolerance. You put your reputation on the line just to move from already comfortable to a bit more comfortable. The cost of never enough can be tragic. You see it in people who cheat, lie, over-leverage, or blow up their whole life for just a little more. The smarter move? Define what enough looks like for you and your family. Enough might be no debt except your mortgage, a 6-month emergency fund, enough retirement savings that work becomes optional, time to actually enjoy your life. Write it down, talk about it with your partner. When you know what enough is, you can stop turning money into a never-ending competition. The goal is not to win some invisible game. The goal is to have a life you're proud of and relaxed in. Part 5. The magic of compounding. Compounding is simple and almost impossible to truly feel. We all understand the math. Your money earns money. Then that new money earns money. Over time, the curve explodes upward, but emotionally, we are impatient. We live in a world of instant delivery, instant streaming, and instant notifications. Waiting 10, 20, 30 years feels insane. Here's the thing. Most of the magic of compounding happens late. Very late. The early years feel slow and boring. You invest, you save. You watch small numbers grow into slightly bigger numbers. It doesn't feel like much is happening. Then suddenly, after many years of consistency, the curve bends. Growth explodes. Your money starts making more money than you do. That's when people call you lucky. But it wasn't luck. It was time plus discipline. Your job is to stay in the game long enough for compounding to work. That means avoiding big mistakes that take you back to zero. Not selling everything during a crash, not constantly jumping in and out of the market, not changing your entire strategy every 6 months. Real wealth is built slowly, quietly, in the background of your life. Not in one big moment, not in one magical stock, but in thousands of small, boring decisions, repeated for decades. Part 6. Tails drive everything. In investing, a tail event is something rare and extreme. A huge market crash, a massive boom, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. A company that becomes one of the biggest in the world. Here's the wild part. A small number of days, decisions, and investments often account for most of your results. A few monster stocks drive most of the market's long-term returns. A few best days or worst days can shape your entire decade. A few key choices in your own life can change your net worth forever. What does that mean for you? First, understand that you don't need to be right all the time. You can be wrong often and still do very well if you stay in the game long enough for a few big tailwinds to show up. Second, don't interrupt compounding by overreacting to noise. That terrible week in the market. In the grand scheme of a 30-year investing life, it's just a blip. Third, be prepared for extremes. The world is not average. Averages hide how wild reality actually is. So build a plan that can handle crazy, because crazy is normal. Part 7. Freedom, the highest dividend money pays. Ask most people what they want from money, and they'll say things like, A nice house, a better car, vacations, security. But if you keep digging, you discover something deeper. What people really want is control over their time. Think about your happiest days. They're usually the days when you decide what to do, when to wake up, who to spend time with, what to work on. Money, used well, buys you that freedom. Freedom to say no to a toxic job. Freedom to leave a bad situation. Freedom to take a day off when you're burned out. Freedom to spend more time with your kids, your spouse, your friends. That is the real flex. Not the luxury car, not the flashy watch, not the giant house. You can have a driveway full of expensive cars and still be trapped in a life you hate. So when you think about your financial goals, don't just ask, how much can I earn? Ask, how much freedom do I want? How much control over my time do I want? What kind of life am I trying to buy? Use money to build a life you don't need a vacation from. Part 8. The Man in the Car Paradox. Imagine you see someone roll up in a brand new, very expensive car. What's the first thought most people have? Wow, that guy must be rich. We're impressed. We imagine his life is amazing. But here's the paradox. No one is actually thinking about the driver. They're thinking about themselves. They're thinking, if I had that car, people would think I'm successful. We don't admire the owner. We admire the idea of ourselves owning the same thing. The crazy part? The person driving that car might be deep in debt. They might be stressed, overworked, and one paycheck away from panic. We mistake visible spending for wealth. But real wealth is what you don't see. Savings, investments, a paid-off house, no debt, options, flexibility. The Man in the Car Paradox teaches a simple lesson. Chasing status with spending never really gives you what you think it will. People are too busy thinking about themselves to obsess over your lifestyle. So don't go broke trying to impress people who are not even paying that much attention. Part 9. Save money, then save more. There's a lie many people believe. If I just earned more, my money problems would disappear. But income alone doesn't create wealth. Saving does. You probably know someone who makes a very good salary and is always stressed about money. You also may know someone with a modest income who seems weirdly calm and secure. The difference? What they keep, not what they make. Saving is a form of independence. Every dollar you don't spend today is a small slice of future freedom. But here's the twist. You don't need a reason to save. You don't have to know exactly what that money will be used for. Life will give you reasons later. Job loss, medical emergency, family crisis, random opportunity. Having cash on hand lets you respond instead of panic. The psychology of money argues that your savings rate matters more than your investment returns, especially early on. You can chase an extra 2% in returns, or you can simply save an extra 10% of your income. Guess which one is fully under your control? You don't need a complex plan. You need a gap between what you earn and what you spend. Even if it's small, even if it's messy at first, build that gap. Protect that gap, grow that gap. That's where your future peace of mind lives. Part 10. Reasonable beats purely rational. In theory, the rational investor is a robot, no emotions, perfectly optimized, always choosing the mathematically best option. In real life, you are not a robot. You are a human being with stress, family, sleep issues, and feelings. So the best financial plan is not the one that looks perfect on paper. It's the one you can actually stick to in real life. For example, the optimal portfolio might say you should be 100% in stocks for maximum returns. But if you lose sleep every time the market drops, that plan is not optimal for you, because you won't stick with it. Maybe you keep more cash than the textbook says you should. Maybe you pay off your mortgage early even when the interest rate is low. Maybe you invest in a boring index fund instead of trying to beat the market with complex strategies. If those choices help you stay calm and consistent, they are good choices. The point is not to win some theoretical game. The point is to build a plan that fits your personality, so you don't abandon it in the middle of a storm. Reasonable, sustainable, boring. Those are not insults. They are features of a good financial life. Part 11. The future will surprise you. Look back 20 years. Most of the biggest events that shaped the world and the markets were surprises few people correctly predicted. The exact timing of the 2008 crisis, the way tech giants would dominate the economy, a global pandemic shutting down travel and workplaces, zero interest rates, then suddenly high inflation again. The next 20 years will be the same, full of events we don't see coming. That doesn't mean you should panic. It means you should respect uncertainty. Don't build a financial plan that only works if everything goes according to your script, because it won't. Instead, expect recessions, expect volatility, expect inflation scares, expect political chaos, expect headlines screaming, "This time is different." History doesn't repeat perfectly, but it rhymes. And one of the rhymes is this: surprises are normal. Your job is not to predict every surprise. Your job is to be resilient when they arrive. Part 12. Room for error. Think about how engineers design a bridge. They don't build it to barely hold the expected weight. They build it to hold several times more than that. That extra capacity is called a margin of safety. You need the same thing in your financial life. Room for error might look like keeping an emergency fund, having more insurance than you think you need, investing in a diversified way instead of betting everything on one stock, not maxing yourself out with a giant mortgage, planning for retirement as if returns might be lower than the historical average. On paper, this might look inefficient. You might think you could make more money by being more aggressive. But the point of a margin of safety is not to maximize upside, it's to avoid catastrophe. You don't have to squeeze every last drop out of your money. You just have to avoid the kind of mistake that wipes you out. You can recover from small errors. You cannot recover from losing everything. Room for error is what allows you to stay in the game long enough for compounding, tail events, and opportunity to work in your favor. Part 13. You will change. There's a funny thing about long-term financial planning. We imagine that future me will want all the same things current me wants. But think about who you were 10 years ago. Your tastes, your priorities, your goals, chances are, a lot of them have changed. The same will be true 10, 20, 30 years from now. You might think today that you'll happily work until 70. Then at 55, you may feel differently. You might think travel and luxury are your big goals. Then kids arrive, and suddenly stability and time at home feel more important. The psychology of money reminds us long-term planning is essential, but long-term certainty is an illusion, so be flexible. Build a plan that can adapt as you change. Don't lock yourself into a life path that you might later regret just to hit some number faster. Don't sacrifice every present joy for a future that may look different than you imagine. Aim for balance. Respect the future, but also respect the fact that you are a changing person. Part 14. We're playing different games. This one idea can save you from a lot of stress. Not everyone in the market is playing the same game you are. A day trader buying and selling options, a pension fund with a 30-year horizon, a retiree living off dividends, and a 25-year-old just starting out, are all buying and selling in the same market. But they are not trying to achieve the same thing. So when you see a stock go up or down, you don't actually know why someone else is buying or selling. Their time horizon, risk tolerance, and goals might be completely different from yours. If you're investing for long-term wealth, you cannot let yourself be emotionally controlled by people who might be playing a short-term trading game. This is why blindly copying others is so dangerous. You don't know what game they're playing. You don't know their plan, their backup plan, or their exit plan. The solution: define your own game. Are you investing for retirement, college for your kids, financial independence, a cushion of safety. Once you know your game, you can judge every decision through that lens, instead of reacting to what everyone else is doing. Part 15. The Seduction of Pessimism. If you want attention, say something scary. Pessimism feels smart. It feels serious. It sounds like someone is seeing the truth that others are ignoring. Optimism, on the other hand, can sound naive, like you're ignoring risks or living in a fantasy. That's why financial doom headlines always get clicks. Market crash coming. America's finished. Everything bubble about to burst. But if you zoom out and look at history, a different picture appears. Over the long run, despite wars, recessions, inflation, political chaos, and crises, human progress has been real. Markets have grown. Living standards have risen. Technology has improved. We've solved problems we once thought were permanent. Optimism is not the belief that everything will always be fine. That's delusion. Real optimism is the belief that, over long periods of time, problems get solved more often than they destroy us. So yes, respect risk, respect cycles, respect volatility, but don't let permanent pessimism steal your future. In money and in life, measured optimism is a superpower. Part 16. Putting it all together. Let's gather the big lessons from the psychology of money and tie them into your own life. Money is emotional. Your financial decisions are shaped by your upbringing, your fears, your dreams, your culture, and your experiences. That means be gentle with yourself about past mistakes. Be humble about your successes. Be curious about your own patterns. You learned that. Behavior beats intelligence. Luck and risk are always present. Enough is a word that can protect you from endless greed. Compounding is powerful, but only if you give it time. A few big events drive most outcomes. Freedom is the real payoff of wealth. Status spending rarely gives you the respect you imagine. Saving is your greatest superpower. Reasonable plans beat perfect plans you can't stick with. The future will surprise you. You need room for error. You yourself will change. People in the market are playing different games, and pessimism, while seductive, often underestimates human resilience. So what do you do on Monday morning? You don't need to become a financial guru. You don't need to time the market. You don't need to chase the hottest trend on social media. Instead, you can spend a little less than you earn. Automate your saving and investing. Choose simple, diversified investments you understand. Keep a healthy cash buffer. Avoid high-interest debt like the plague. Define what enough looks like for you. Protect your ability to sleep at night. Use money to buy time, choices, and freedom, not just stuff. And maybe most importantly, make peace with the idea that you'll never have perfect control. You're just trying to tilt the odds in your favor, one decision at a time. Closing. A personal challenge to you. If you've listened this far, it means you care about your financial life. That alone already sets you apart. But information without action changes nothing. So here's a simple challenge for you. Right now, today, pick one small behavior from this episode and commit to it. Maybe it's starting an automatic transfer into savings. Maybe it's increasing your 401k contribution by 1%. Maybe it's paying off a credit card faster. Maybe it's finally sitting down and defining what enough looks like for you and your family. Not 10 changes, just one, done consistently. Because wealth is not built by big, dramatic moves. It's built by small, smart habits, repeated over years, while you live your life. If this summary of the psychology of money gave you a new way to think about money, I'd love for you to join the conversation. Like this video if it helped you. Share it with someone who needs a calmer, more human way of thinking about money. And in the comments, tell us, what is one belief about money you're going to change after today? Or what does enough look like to you? Thank you for spending your time here. Take care of your money. Take care of your mind. And remember, the goal is not to have the most money, The goal is to have a life you're truly happy to live.